Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video, and today's video is here as the real domestic action comes into pass. No disrespect to Dumbarton, no disrespect to the early cup rounds of the competition, but today is the day that we have been waiting for, and we have spent the majority of the winter break whenever we've not been looking at transfer targets, looking at transfer rumours, getting excited about guys we've never heard of before, getting sad that we never got the player we never heard of before. It's been a wild roller coaster, but the one little nugget that's been in the actual noggin has been Easter Road away. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 24 hours away now. And as always, me and they are here to actually talk about it. And before we get to the nooks and crannies, which is the Rangers injury list, which is... I'm just going to get into it a bit later on, but we're here to talk about the game, we're here to preview the game, which means we'll look at the opposition. But before we go ahead and dive into it, as always, just a friendly reminder in case you enjoy the content or enjoy the channel, there's a 70k challenge being placed on our Hibs to break into the top 30 fans in the UK that does what a kind of day. And I'm going to be honest, 20 of them is Man United fans, so let's try and get after a couple of them, please, then, shall we? Let's take over Manchester again. Troops, but back to the game. We're here for the old oppositional preview, which means we have to look at tomorrow's dance partner, which is of course Hibs, who at my current time of recording sit 6th in the old SPFL. And you might hear Hibs in 6th and think, well, that sounds like a bad season for them, and it's such a weird and interesting season to look into, because as weird and mad as our season's been with our managerial change and where our focus has been, Hibs has had a wild ride this year as well. Remember the Lee Johnson experience? Well, that did have them playing some of the worst football they've ever played, especially at the likes at Easter Road. But Nick Montgomery's came in, they had a good spell, they've had a bad spell, they've then had another good spell, and what we're going to talk about here is they're currently going through yet another bad spell as there's been hit and miss. It must be so frustrating and so confusing to be a Hibs fan, because every time you think you've turned the corner, you just seem to go a wee bit wrong. But again, they sit in 6th, having played 2 less games than St Mirren, who sit in 5th. So it's ahead of them. There's an opportunity to climb the leagues, but equally they could go down the actual league, because the team that is chomping at their heels in the 7th position is having played 2 less games than Hibs. So Hibs have played 2 less games than St Mirren at 5th, but Hibs have played 2 more games than Dundee. This league is an absolute mess right now. Thank God the winter break has actually been ripped up and flung away from next season onwards. It was a needless, pointless, silly distraction, forcing certain amount of games in December to take a couple of weeks off in January, when most of the games in December ended up getting cancelled with the same weather they were worried about in January. It was complete nonsense, and I'm so glad, not only from a Rangers end, as we seemingly do better without a winter break, but I'm just so glad for football now in this country that we've got rid of this stupid, silly, needless actual period, and that's on from next year onwards. But taking it back into this football, it was interesting to see how Hibs went in to the winter break, because if you look at their recent run in terms of league football, they have 1 win, 1 draw, and 3 losses during that run, matching exactly the team ahead of them, by the way, in St Mirren, who has the exact same form over the last 5 games. But to show how both sides have actually been doing over that period, and showing that that's not a great start. They might be sitting 5th and 6th, but that's been poor. St Mirren is on the slide, and Hibs have been sliding down with them, as the only other team with the exact same form over the last 5 games is the team sitting 2nd bottom of the league in Ross County, and that tells you how 3 teams in this league are playing, and of course Hibs are slap right in the middle of that. And that's wild to look at, because it wasn't too long ago that Hibs were on a fantastic purple patch. He formed, beating Aberdeen, beating Kilmarnock, who's been very dangerous to play this season. We know that from our own perspective, and also we just know it as they've been picking up good results and they're a tough team to actually beat. Hibs managed to beat the very impressive Dundee as well, which some people might scoff at that, but they were playing brilliant at that time, punching well above their weight. And again, they're still nipping at the heels of Hibs sitting in the 7th position, and their biggest eye-opening game was of course at Easter Road, the same stadium we go, the Mora, except it was against the other side of the Old Firm, as Hibs managed to hold Celtic to a 0-0 draw, making Celtic drop points, beating Aberdeen, beating Killie, beating their rivalry in the league terms of position, Dundee, to where they are now, having played some of the worst football and getting some of the worst results that they've had all season long. And it's the type of run that Lee Johnson ended up getting sacked for. Well, they're reverting back to type And that's so interesting. It must be absolutely infuriating to watch as a Hibs fan. How do you get purple patches and great results and then it just completely turns in the last 5 games? But that's obviously a good thing for us in terms of that aspect. As if we played them in about a month and a half ago, I'd be saying a completely different thing about this Hibs side. But I can only talk about what I'm seeing right now, and it's a team that's filled with very little confidence. I mean, you talk about confidence. The last game, their most recent game, was a cup game, of course, early cup round versus Forfar, as they narrowly won 1-0 in that game, and they played their best team. In fact, I think they played their starting 11 the same way we played our starting 11 in our game. That was their best team, and it took the 69th minute for Big Deutsch to put the team away. And look, I'm not trying to jinx things and I'm not trying to talk them down. I just have to tell you what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing is not pretty. But what I do know is what we'll get from this Hibs side is the same thing we get when we go to Pittodrie. We will see teams take it up for maybe not their form wise or how they're playing, but their intensity level will be right hot there, and there is no bigger warning sign than what they've done to Celtic earlier in the season. I mean, we scanted them 4-0, and less than a week later they played Celtic at Easter Road, raised their intensity levels and got a draw. That's a warning sign. That's what you look at if you're a Rangers player going into tomorrow, and that's what you look at if you're coaching staff or anything today. But you didn't look at losing to this team or St Mirren or Dundee, or you didn't look at any of that nonsense. You look at that little period, getting scanted for us for Ibrox, but then taking it to Easter Road and getting a 0-0 draw a week later after getting embarrassed is what you should be worried about. And that's what I look to see. Who's going to step up in the intensity and who's going to be selected to go to Easter Road and get the points done. Look, I'm not saying it's an impossible task or it's going to be this or that, but I need to give them credit where they are. They're good at Easter Road whenever they play against the Old Firm, and we need to turn up and get this done. No look at the last 5 games and say they have been absolute rotten. This will be an easy game. And I know it's an old cliche in football, but the first goal is absolutely vital, and I feel like if it goes longer than 25 minutes and there's no goal in the game, that Hibs side is going to start to get some confidence. But on the other side of that coin, they are playing so bad right now that if we can rip up their game plan and if we can rip up their self-confidence they've got at Easter Road versus the Old Firm, if we can get a goal in the first 15-20 minutes of this game, it might end up being an absolute cricket score. That's the type of game that it could be. It could completely flip like that. Either they take the confidence or we rip it for them, and I certainly hope it's the latter. But that's all I've really got to say about the Hibs side. I've not really brought in too much or changed too much. We know what they're about. We've seen them before under the new manager when we beat them 4-0, and I'll order one of them. Compliments to the old chef. But I think I've been pretty fair with this Hibs side, with their up and down style nature. Now it's time to get to the Rangers end of today's video. I go into this video with the exact same mindset, or I go into this game with the exact same mindset as I have with the likes of Pittodrie. As we already mentioned, it's all about mentality, and I believe we've got a manager that believes that as well, that maybe doesn't look down in the opposition, but has enough respect in his own players to pick attacking players. Because we've went to Easter Road, we've played a couple holders, we've been a wee bit negative here or there, we've had some great results, and I'm taking nothing away from it. But under Clement, I've just got this different feeling. I don't know if you agree with this, that we're going to be picking an attacking lineup tomorrow. Again, with the injuries and the players missing and that, it's frustrating that we only get everything, but I've got a different feeling. I'm very excited to see how he plays and who he picks ahead of the actual game, because 90% of these type of away days is all about mentality and approach, and I believe we've got a manager that's going to set his team out there to attack, and that's exactly what we need to do if we want to wrap up all 3 points and really start the domestic football off properly. But let's get to the old injuries then, shall we? Sorry to do this, but again, we need to get there. Ben Davies is listed as unavailable, but he's apparently very close now. I don't know about you, and I'll never say that Clement's telling us lies or anything like that, but he's just a clever manager, doesn't give too much away. I just don't think he fancies Ben Davies, you know what I mean? I just got the feeling that he's not wanted by him, and when you spend what you spend on him and he can't win a heather, he's good at so other things, and I think he's a better partner than what we've got so far with Connor Golson, but you can't rely on him on these types of away days whenever a ball comes into the mixer, because he can't header the football. And say what you want about Scottish football, you need that ability. We need a dominant in the air centre half, and I think that's why Balogun actually stands out and looks better than the likes of Suter and Ben Davies every single time he plays, because he can actually win a header. And say what you want about Connor Golson, and maybe doesn't get any on target, but he can throw his cinder block at Son, and he usually gets on the end of Hings that's coming into the mixer. And aye, that's how I feel about Ben Davies. Whether we see him again in a Rangers shirt remains to be seen. Whether he's going to be fit enough to be sold in January, that also remains to be seen. But that's how I feel about Ben Davies. But you've got the likes of Sima, which is obviously the gutting one and the real Syrian in the stomach. I mean, we almost felt like we were a bit lucky because we got sent back for Senegal. We were really excited, but then we were sent back with a long-term injury. But then we thought, well, he was going to miss a month anyway. He was going to miss the next 3 games. So if it's nothing too serious, at least he'll be back. So it's still a win, CJ. Clement expects it to be a long-term injury, Droops. That's all he said. And regarding the scale of that, he's going to tell us after he gets the results after the Hibs game, but expect a lengthy time out injured for Sima, who didn't play a single minute when he went over to Senegal. I'm almost at the stage where I just want to lock our players up. Every time the international phone rings, because Jacko played 11 minutes and he missed 3 months. Sima didn't play a single minute and he's missing at least 2 months. We need to stop our players gone, because as soon as they leave our cursed building, it's instantly injured. And it's absolutely infuriating to miss someone like that, because you can say what you want about him, but he broke goals. He's a top goal scorer besides Tavernier. Standard in that aspect. But aye, frustrating to be losing him, and you've got the likes of Danilo and all that out. So you're looking at tomorrow, Silva, Rabi Matondo, Ross McCausland, Scott Wright, the options out wide, and you've obviously got in your 9 options, you've got Dessers or potentially Silva, but I expect it to be Dessers. And again, we need to get behind the big laddie whilst he is selected as our number 9. We need him to score goals and we need him to have big performances, and I hope he's reading all our tweets. I hope he's reading what everybody's saying about wanting Shankland and wanting that, because I would take that as, right, I'll show you, because I'm playing tomorrow. I'll show you. I've got a bit of son. I'm going to score some goals. He just needs to go out and do it. With massive expenditure on the laddie. We've got all that. I think the board still needs to back him. I feel like they need to back him because they spent on him. He's into double digits now. We just need him to turn up and score. That's all we do. Whether we get another goal scorer in this window, we are reliant on Dessers, and I expect him to have a big game tomorrow. I hope he has a big game tomorrow. But everybody else remains the exact same. Dijon Sterling, again, is struggling. We're knocked. Dowell has had an operation. He's had surgery, so he's going to be missing for a very long time, and that's where we sit as a Rangers team. One coming in terms of the midfielder, the Amandi, who you should expect to see very, very soon, and then hopefully 2 more in this window. But that's it. That's all I've got to say regarding this game. It's going to be a battle of the minds and battles of the approach, and we have more than enough to put this Hibs side away, especially the way they're playing. But again, will we actually turn up and want to fight and want to battle? That's always a question with certain Rangers players in this starting 11. And that's all I've got to say. What about you? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down there in the old comment section. Well, regarding the predictions, I'm going Rangers 2, Hibs 0. Aye, goose eggs. You thought I was going to say 2-1, but I went 2-0. And until next time, I've been CJ92. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow after the game. All the best, and bye-bye.